Okay, um, welcome to our podcast. So, our podcast focus on the blood plasma market in Australia, and we want to find a solution or a policy to solve the some deficiency problems in Australia. Um, and For first thing, what is plasma and why it matters? So, I'm doing the background and introduction part, and we have five people in the group. First, plasma is a liquid component of blood, making up about 55% of total blood volume, and it contains proteins such as albumin, clotting factors, and immunoglobulins. So these things are very essential for our body, and especially in three parts. First, treating immune deficiencies. Second, managing bleeding disorders like hemophilia. Third thing, supporting burn and trauma patients. So, well, plasma-derived medicine are life-saving and irreplaceable for many patients. There are some shortage in the Australian market. Um, it's, um, we take the 2016 to 2017 as example. As you can see, there are 44 of the blood plasma was imported, and which takes $120 million, and 56 are domesticated blood plasma, but it takes far more than the import blood plasma, which is $413 million. So so it's a huge contract. It's a huge comparisons between the import plasma and the domestic blood blood plasma. And there's some collection barriers. Obviously, plasma donation takes longer than can only be done every 2 to 4 weeks, and many countries, including Australia, rely on the voluntary unpaid donors. Well, some countries like United States, they have paid donations, so they take about 60% of the world plasma. So this is the basic shortage and market overview. And then plasma matters for health system and patients. For patients, some patients requires regular infusions for survival, and for health system, um, reliance on importance risk the supply chain, price problems, and the domestic collection is costly.
Hello, my name is Prem, and I'm going to talk about economic theory and evidence from literature on the market of plasma. We begin by examining both the demand side and supply side of the plasma market, as well as the key findings from relevant literature. When we look at the demand side of the market, immunoglobulins, albumin, and coagulation factors are among the medical products made from plasma, the PDMA, that are vital for treatment of chronic illness. The demand curve. The demand curve for plasma shows an inelastic demand, meaning that price change results in comparatively smaller variations in the amount needed. The table below represents the stats extracted from National Blood Authority in August 2025. Around 17,316 people in Australia received the immunoglobulin therapy during July 2025. Out of those, 955 were new to the program. 1,467 authorizations were granted for patients to receive the IG treatment under BloodStar. Interpretation of the table is that the patient base is large and continues to grow rapidly, almost 1,000 new patients in just 1 month. Supply side. A price and supply have a positive relationship. Higher prices encourages greater plasma collection and donor involvement. Persistent shortage and rising costs still occur, contributing to a broader healthcare inflation, which is more of a significant macroeconomics issue. The United States is by far the world's largest source of plasma, largely due to its commercial plasma sector. Fellows from the Cornell Executive MBA and MS in Healthcare Leadership program visited Grifols. With a significant presence in the US, Grifols is set to control 30% of the world plasma collection operations in the US as well as in Europe. Some key things that have been highlighted from that very research is that the industry faces major challenges such as supply bottlenecks, increasing operational costs, and moral considerations. This raises the question, Why is the US the major supplier of plasma? The US paid donation concept, which compensates plasma donors financially, whereas financial rewards are expressly prohibited in the Australian norm. In the United States, a typical plasma donor is under 35, underemployed, and earns less than USD 20,000 annually. According to a research by Credit Suisse on CSL, Commonwealth Serum Laboratories established plasma collecting facilities in underdeveloped areas in the US, especially in communities along the US-Mexico border, to attract low-level income people by running advertisements in Spanish language to donate plasma. Quote unquote, it's as if we are saying that we don't want to take advantage of Australians, but taking advantage of Americans is okay. This has been said by Peter Swarovski, an associate teaching professor at the Georgetown University. In summary, the market illustrates a complex interaction between economic factors and ethical considerations, such as the United States paid donor system versus the Australian voluntary framework. Both shape a market efficiency and also a moral debate.
Hi everyone. In this session, I will evaluate current plasma policy approaches, comparing how the US, Australia, and middle-income countries manage donor incentives and what COVID-19 revealed about supply resilience. Global demand for plasma-based medicines now exceeds supply. Most systems use either a paid donor model which boosts volume or a voluntary model which prioritizes access and safety. The key challenge is balancing efficiency with ethical responsibility. The US pays donors and supplies over 60% of the world's plasma. This model delivers high steady volume but relies heavily on low-income donors, raising ethical concerns. It also concentrates global dependence on one country, creating risk if disruptions occur. Australia uses a voluntary altruistic donation system known for safety and trust. However, it meets only around 60% of domestic demand. The rest is imported mostly from the US. This dependence makes Australia vulnerable to price shock and global shortages. In many middle-income countries, plasma collection remains limited due to weak infrastructure and quality systems. Some are experimenting with regulated compensation or public-private partnership to improve self-sufficiency. This shows flexibility, not a single fixed model, is key to sustainable supply. COVID-19 was a major stress test. Lockdowns sharply reduced donations, especially in voluntary systems. Import-dependent countries faced price surge, and some relaxed outdated donor rules to expand eligibility. The pandemic proved the need for more flexible, science-based, and diversified plasma policies.
Okay, let's now look at the part 4.
Australia mainly relies on voluntary and unpaid plasma donations, but according to the National Blood Authority, the country still imports almost half of its plasma needs. In contrast, in the United States, where donor receive payment provides around 70% of the world's plasma supply. From an economic perspective, paying donor helps correct a market failure. It aligns personal incentives with the broader social benefit of saving lives. Ethically, as long as compensation is transparent, regulated, and donor safety is ensured, payment does not exploit individuals. It respects their autonomy. While payment helps meet demand, It raises concerns about fairness and exploitation. To make the system ethical, donor protection must come first. Governments should limit donation frequency, provide health checks and insurance, and offer non-cash incentives like voucher and paid leave. With proper safeguards, compensation can empower donors rather than exploit them, making the system both fair and sustainable. The supply issue isn't just about economics, it's about global fairness. Today, most plasma products come from the US, while many low-income countries are still unable to access enough. During COVID-19, export restrictions made this gap even wider. Wealthier nations secured their supplies, but poor ones faced some shortages. This shows the deep gap between the ethical imbalance. To make the system equal, high-income countries should share a responsibility by investing in nation collection networks, supporting technology transfer, and building global cooperation so that every patient, not just the wealthy one, can receive the patient and receive the treatment they need. The plasma market faces a key dilemma. Altruism alone cannot meet demand, but paid systems raise ethical concerns. A truly ethical policy must balance donor welfare, patient needs, and fairness. One solution is to develop hybrid incentive models, not direct cash, but regulated rewards like health benefits, recognition, or paid leave. Government should also ensure transparency, protect donor health, and promote international cooperation so plasma access becomes fair and reliable for everyone. In the end, the goal is balance, creating a plasma system that is ethical, fair, and sustainable for both donors and patients.
Hi everyone, I'm Za. I'm building on the shortage, ethics, and policy contracts my team has covered. I will present feasible, economics-grounded recommendations to make Australia's plasma supply both secure and fair. Australia still relies heavily on imported plasma products, which leave us vulnerable to global shocks and raises ethical questions about depending on paid donors overseas. Our goal is a system that is efficient in cost, ethical in incentive, and resilient against disruption. The scale of the gap is clear. About 44% of plasma products used here were historically imported, with only 56% produced domestically. A structural exposure to external shocks and price swing. COVID-19 made this visible. Mobility restriction cut donation, and import-dependent countries face bottlenecks and price pressure. The policy challenge is to lift supply while protecting donor welfare and public trust. First, we should push the supply curve outward by lowering non-monetary costs for donors and increasing processing capacity. More collection points and mobile units make donating routine rather than exceptional. Pair this with the private partnership to expand fractionation capacity because scale effects can lower unit costs over time. Finally, improve cold chain and rural logistics so donated plasma is used efficiently. Together, these steps raise productive efficiency and make Australia less dependent on external markets. Secondly, these are incentive-compatible policies that encourage donations without commodifying plasma. We can reimburse direct costs so donors aren't out of pocket, and complement that with non-monetary rewards that build habits and recognition. If supply remains tight, charge small, cap loyalty bonuses under stringent oversight. The purpose is to support participation safely, not to create financial dependency. With frequency caps, medical screening, and transparent reporting, we protect both donors and trust. Thirdly, by developing a Pacific plasma network with New Zealand and Singapore, Australia can share reserve and coordinate procurement, ensuring steady access to plasma even during global disruption. The World Health Organization and OECD have both highlighted regional partnership as key to strengthening resilience in health supply chains. Moreover, Australia must invest strategically in biotechnology research. Collaboration between CSL Behring and leading universities can accelerate the development of recombinant and synthetic plasma proteins. providing safe and scalable alternatives to human plasma. In conclusion, innovation will create dynamic efficiency, reduce dependence on human donors, and ease ethical tension associated with plasma systems. Combined with regional cooperation, these strategies can form the foundation of a self-sufficient, ethical, and sustainable plasma system for Australia.